Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, evening, everybody. The Board of Ed actually came to order in closed session at 6:30, so we can move right into recognitions.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ramona. I missed-
You're fine.
Don't run, easy. Hector, you want to stand up and do the certificates, please?
Do it with him, since you're on the end. I can't make Bill. Recognition for December 14th, 2021. The following athletes are being recognized. Congratulations to girls swimming state qualifier Haley Velchek.
Is Haley here? Come on up, Haley.
How did I do on the name? Did I get the name right? Yeah.
Good job, Haley.
Congratulations.
Girls golf state qualifier Mayan Covarrubias.
All right.
Is that her walk-up song? Everybody should have one. Girls cross-country straight qualifier Bryce Pekoric and Gianna Gelb. Okay.
Let's stay up here, Bryce. Let's do one more. We got one more. Is your other teammate here, Gianna? Oh. Come on up, Gianna. Say Gianna's
All
name
right,
again.
Gianna Gelb.
Congratulations, girls.
Sorry, Gianna. Is there pictures being taken? Not anymore.
Slow.
Boys cross-country state finalist Cooper Mars.
Congratulations, Cooper.
Paul Proto.
Paul. Congratulations, Paul.
You boys stay up here, huh? Because we got more cross-country. Boys cross-country straight qualifiers, Jack O'Brien. I think we'll have the whole team up here by the end. Hayden Mars.
Hayden.
Zachary Gaynor.
And a picture, just for the record.
William Callis. Brennan Lester.
The boys cross-country team also finished in state, and that was Cooper, Paul, Jack, Hayden, Zach, William, and Brennan. Let's hear it for all of our state qualifiers. Thank you, good job, everybody. I believe those are all of our recognitions for tonight, correct?
Yes, that is correct, Dr. Skinkus.
Parents, we're about to go into a levy hearing, so if you want to stay for the fun stuff, you're more than welcome. Or while we organize our papers, you could maybe run for the door. It's up to you.
Well, she wants me to run this part because she wants to take a picture with her kids, so I just throw it to Kristen, right?
Which part?
The levy part. She left the
No, she
building.
took the picture.
Oh, she took the picture? Okay.
Oh, I wasn't gonna hug him. That was kind of
That would've been a-
after the fact acknowledgement. You catch that? Yeah, that was if I don't do it, it's not gonna go well for me.
That was fast, Deanna.
That was fast. That we'd have coaches' remarks or something, but we're good.
Good, because I really didn't want to do that. I mean,
Okay.
I would, but I didn't really want to, but I didn't have to.
A quorum being present, the first order of business is to hold a public hearing for the 2021 tax levy. Due notice has been given of the public hearing, and statutory requirements preliminary to the holding of such a public hearing have been met. The proposed tax levy was first reviewed at the November board meeting. Dr. Skinkis and Dr. Spatana will present the 2021 levy and answer any questions from the board.
Thank you. Ms. Smetana and the Finance Advisory Council, we met back in November, presented a levy for a first read, and Dr. Smetana will go through another presentation tonight. Under state statute, a hearing is not required to approve our levy unless we're asking for more than the 5% tax cap, which we are not. But out of transparency, the district has always done a levy hearing. Ms. Smetana, or Dr. Smetana, please.
On Board Book, page 5, you'll see the levy worksheet that I reviewed at the November meeting. As you can see in column C, this is the final extension from tax year 2019, or the money that the district was entitled to receive. Column F, highlighted in gray, is the amount of money the district was entitled to receive in tax year 2020, with the loss factor that Cook County adds in. And then continuing on, column K is the levy that the district will submit to Cook County. So as you can see in fine print, we levy at 4.95% to collect as much as we can on the new property. We don't actually receive 4.95%. What happens is Cook County will reduce that to CPI for all of our existing property. CPI is 1.4% for our tax levy of 2021. And then the amount of new money that we anticipate receiving next year is highlighted in gray. And that is approximately $282,232. And again, that's what we estimate we're entitled to receive. That doesn't mean that we actually collect all of that money. Are there any questions at this time?
Anyone? No, hearing no questions. We will open it up to public comment on the tax levy or the meeting itself. Is anyone here for public comment at this point? You want to come on up? You could state your name. Thank you.
My name is Ariel Elliott, and I'm a parent here, and this is not geared towards Dr. Freitas in any way, shape, or form. It's about the other administration here at the school. RBSH for my family has not been Friday night lights or a comprehensive fluid experience of high school's ups and downs. It has been a constant dismissal of basic humanity, a disruption in my children's ability to learn, judgment, lip service, dismissive behavior, lies, torment, and the twisting of the truth. My children have learned what suffering is here. They must attend RBHS, a place that does not want them and has, from our experience, actively tried to preclude their very existence. There have been days my children have awakened and are convinced the subtle and sometimes overt but constant abuse that they have endured and endure here will never leave their consciousness. And not just because of a few awful people or incidences, but from your system of loathing the blackness of their skin and your preconceived ideas of who they are. People exactly like you, once they decide it's too hard to look at my black children, also decide not to protect them. With every discriminatory rule, action, and practiced bias, my children and children like my children suffer, and your children do too. In this day and age, it takes effort to be as cruel and unconscious as RBHS has been. Every time you decide to abuse and retaliate, instead of extend care, you create more children who grow up exactly like my children. Children who will say that they survived in this place instead of having thrived in this place. And I believe you all should be very ashamed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I do apologize. I did forget to read the introductory sentence, but it was kept under 3 minutes, so thank you. Do I need to read through the whole thing, Dr. Skinkis, at this point?
You may, just in case anybody else needs.
Is anyone else here for public comment? I apologize for the procedural error there. Thank you. Seeing no additional public comment, I will declare that the public hearing on the budget is complete. Can we have a motion to adjourn the actual public hearing on the levy?
Do I need to read this now?
Just says I move the public hearing is.
I move the public hearing be adjourned at this time.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Welch. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the regular meeting will now proceed. And we did use public comment simultaneous for the public hearing and for the tax levy. district goal setting process. Sorry, discussion information items. District goal setting process. I was going to provide an update in my remarks, but I think we can do it here as well since it's on the agenda. Obviously, the group of us was present on Saturday for meeting with IASB and the IASB goal setting board review process. So I do appreciate everyone's time and commitment to that on their Saturday, Dr. Skinkis and the full Board of Education. From that process, we all did receive a packet from IASB Lori Grant. It includes includes all of the draft goals that we came up with. My request to the board is that we look at those and make sure they reflect our discussion from last Saturday, get back to Dr. Skinkis and I by the end of this calendar year with any changes, and then in January, as we discussed, we would publicize those for public comment back to the core group that worked on the mission statement in 2020 and on our website for general comment. Is there anything to add to the IASB process at this point? Does that reflect everyone's understanding of what occurred on Saturday? Okay.
And you should get the email today, right? Everybody should,
Yes.
if not, check your email. If you did,
Do we share that with Claire?
Yeah, I was
I
just
did.
about to
I
ask.
did.
if-
Deanna
okay.
did that. Yeah.
With both Claire and Alina, so they have that information. Any other comments on the goal-setting process? I think we still have a significant road ahead of us. There's a lot of work to be done, but I think there was some positive steps taken over the weekend. So thank you, everyone. Moving on, Dr. Skinkis, to FOIA requests.
FOIA requests, we have 4. Steven Sapiro submitted 2. FOIA current list of all library books, and then withdrawing a request to board, more specific requests in the future. Sherry Reed, Smart Procure, any and all purchasing records. And then Bob Skolnick from the Landmark requested a copy of the exhibit from the Notice to Remedy.
Any comments on those?
And the second, for all the purchase items, that was all on the website, right? That was our response?
The response is included in your board packet, but I believe whatever is not provided on the website, we include, but I think we have that in the bills.
Yeah, I think
Go
if
back
they
and
want to
look.
know where we spend our money, it's.
Correct, all our bills are all posted on the
All bills are posted on the website,
Right.
Correct.
so that saved us some time.
Yes, that was part of Mary Ann's response. Look at the website.
Thank you. Moving on to additional discussion items. Does anyone have any matters to bring for the board at this point? I know I indicated on Saturday that I wanted to ask leave of the board to address some of our policies in a future superintendent group. So if I could ask the board's indulgence, there were 3 specific policy areas that I came across that are probably due for an update or a review if the board is aligned with that. The first is section, I'll give you a Post-it here, Kevin.
Okay.
Section 2:140 on communication to and from the board. It just needs to be updated to reflect current practices. It's simply some Scrivener type issues and some wordsmithing. Board policy 2:200, the location needs to be updated. It currently says alumni lounge for our meetings. And then section 2:230 is about public participation. It references 8:30 about visitors. And I think in light of what school boards are looking at in different locales, it's an area that we should likely take a review of and just make sure that we're all comfortable with how that reads. Does anyone have any objections to having the superintendent's policy group review these areas?
What's 2:140 one more time?
Communication to and from the board.
Okay.
And you can have it.
Can't spell.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Giving me more work?
They were short. They'll be very short.
I'm just kidding.
Unlike the press packet, right? Which
Yeah,
is
the press
how many
plus is
pages?
Huge.
Yes. So these are modest by
These are
comparison.
easy? Okay, I like easy ones.
Moving on to reports, President's report. I was going to comment on the IASB goal-setting session on Saturday, but I already shared an update with the group. The other comment I wanted to make was just general in this, season of gratitude. Thank you to everyone who makes RBHS work, right? The teachers, the students, the administration, the parents, the families, the communities, the taxpayers. everyone who supports the work that we do here. It's been a long year. It's not as long perhaps as last year, but it still has been a long year. We are still engaged in a pandemic, and that is giving us all challenges in our day-to-day work. And so thank you all for the efforts that every single one of those individuals does to make RBHS the great community that it is. So thank you. And that concludes my comments. It's on to you, Dr. Skinkis.
Superintendent's report, obviously winter break will start at the after finals on this Friday. Students are expected to return Monday, January 3rd. As you're seeing, I know in the local media today, there was a nice article about the uptick in COVID cases through all the schools. We have seen our share of some uptick in cases, but we're continuing to do our contact tracing and contacting the Cook County Health Department. We still are doing test to stay and have testing on site. And about close to 50% of the student cases that we've had are students who are fully vaccinated. So I think we're just experiencing what you're starting to see across the country. Curriculum Advisory Council, no new updates. Facilities Advisory Council, the Facility Advisory Council met on December 8th. The items discussed included the life safety projects and expenditures. Kristen will go in a little more detail of that when we do the Assistant Superintendent report. Aramark's quarterly business review, and the Aramark service contract. The Aramark service contract is expected to end at the end of this school year, and so we have discussed with the Facilities Advisory Council the possibility of doing an extension with Aramark based on their services and the quality of service we receive and the performance and the stuff they've helped us out. And over the next probably 2 to 3 meetings, Kristen will be able to show you some financial breakdowns of money they've saved us during the life safety projects by being able to do some of that work on their own without us having to subcontract that out, as well as some of the grants they've given back to the school as a partnership with us, whether it was supporting new scoreboards or our one-to-one initiative, some of those items. So we'll bring that information to you after the first of the year, but that's something that should be on the horizon. No updates for finance, no updates on personnel, and then policy. We have the 3 recommendations tonight from the board president, but also press packet 108, which is a very large packet, and we are slated to meet the first week back before the January meeting. We just need to lock in a date. Purchase, sale, or lease of land, no new updates on that. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Skinkis. Dr. Smetana?
Good evening. In addition to my regular report tonight, I have several other informational items. I'll try to move through as quickly as possible, but first I'll begin with financial information for the month of November. This represents 42% of the fiscal year. On Board Book page 24, the monthly summary report, you'll see the total operating revenue for the month was $654,068, with 33% coming from property tax and CPPRT, 30% coming from evidence-based funding, which is state funding, and then 23% coming from local fees such as food service reimbursement and commission, age group gymnastics, rentals, etc. The total operating expenditures for the month were $2,101,904, with 77% towards salary and benefits, 7% towards special education tuition, and 5% towards building level supplies and dues and fees. On the next page, you'll see the summary of the fund balances. Shows that the district's operating funds have a positive balance this month. But it is likely that the district will need to rely on the fund balance to cover January and February, and possibly longer if the property tax collection is delayed again. The district will not have significant revenue until the spring property tax collection, which hopefully should arrive in March. There was a question submitted about where the $3 million was set aside for land development and acquisition for the field. $2.9 million is sitting in working cash. Over their 2 previous fiscal years, $100,000 was transferred to capital, and some of that money has been spent on some preliminary work. The summary of revenue shows that the district has received 47.6% of our budgeted revenue for the year. That we're tracking very similar to this time last fiscal year. To date, the district has received 97.3% of our budgeted prior year tax collection that we budgeted for. So we're chasing, there should be a comma there instead of a period. So we're chasing $270,467 in terms of what we budgeted for the prior year property tax collection. And the summary of expenditures shows that the district has spent 42.7% of the budgeted expenditures for the year, and this amount, again, is also similar to this time last year, which was 41.9%. For the board's information, as always, I've included the statement of revenues and expenditures for the month, along with the student activity account summary. There were no questions on that, so I'd like to move into the informational items. So Marianne, if you could go back to board book page 23, please. I wanted to provide the board with an IMET update. So earlier this year, the Township Treasurer's Office recovered a little over $5,000 for the district from IMET, which stands for the Illinois Metropolitan Investment Fund. There was a fraud incident back in 2015. So over the last couple of years, we have collected $75,282.33, which represents about 41% of that total investment, which is a little over $181,000. So the Township Treasurer does all of our investing for us. We do not anticipate receiving any additional money at this point. And there were, just a brief background, there were many municipalities that invested in IMET, and this was just one of IMET's investments. Like I said, I don't anticipate the district receiving any additional money at this point. TRS SSP, which stands for Supplemental Savings Plan. Some of you may remember I provided the board, I think it was over a year ago now, but Public Act 102-540 mandated a statewide defined contribution plan for public employee benefits, which led to TRS creating what's called this SSP, or Supplemental Savings Plan. To date, TRS has not implemented it, and so right now they're mandating that schools adopt the TRS SSP so that members can enroll in the 457B if they choose, and employees can start contributing in March. However, at this point, legal counsel and several organizations are advising against adopting the resolution for the TRS SSP because there are several unresolved issues, and some of them are significant. So at this point, we are holding off, but there will come a time where we likely will need to adopt this resolution. I don't anticipate it being very popular among our employees. We currently do offer 457B plans, but we will need to offer this in addition to the 457B plans that we offer.
So on that issue, Dr. Smith, who are we running afoul of by not adopting that right now? I mean, council's advising us not to, and I understand that and I support that. This was a request of TRS?
TRS is mandating that school districts adopt this because they have to, they are required to offer this to all of their employees, and so they have to do it through the employer, which is where we're kind of getting caught in the middle.
Okay, so it's a TRS requirement.
Yes.
That they don't have the teeth on at this point yet.
Yes, and it's been a requirement. The Public Act was passed in, I believe, 2018, and TRS has kind of been dragging their feet for a while on this.
Because some of the information they're requesting, they can't get, right, our legal counsel's concerned about what they're requesting or...
Well, there's some liability, and they're trying to push a lot of the liability off onto the district. They're requiring the district to monitor contribution limits, which is hard because it's not going through the same company that we use to monitor all of our others, so it's a standalone. And so for a district like us, I don't anticipate us having a lot of employees that sign up for this, so we could probably manage that, but for larger districts, that would be a huge issue. In the future, new employees that are Tier 2 that come into our district, they default to being a part of this 457B, and then they have to opt out when they get hired into a district. So there are lots of concerns raised by several organizations And TRS really at this point hasn't responded to a lot of those concerns. And so there's still a lot of advocacy going back and forth and trying to resolve some of
I
them.
believe TRS itself has had some internal challenges over the last couple of years as well.
Yes.
With
Yes, I think I've
leadership
read
and
some of
some
those.
other things,
Yes.
so.
Specific to this SSP
Right.
as
Yeah.
well.
So,
Yes, and they also took a pause as they were trying to roll out Gemini, which is their monthly reporting system. They used to have you report to TRS on an annual basis, and now you have to report on a monthly basis, similar to IMRF, but they were developing that software, which is also why they had put this on hold.
So you said currently we offer a 457B?
Yes,
And those limits are rolled into what we do already?
yes.
So-
Through the company we have, we can enter in some demographics, and they do the monitoring for us.
Okay. And that's a plan where the district doesn't make any matching contributions, it's all employee money going in there?
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next public act is in regards to property tax refunds. The district has been notified that they should receive an additional $309,953 as an adjustment from previous tax refunds that were issued over the past year. I believe it was November 1st of 2020 through October 1st of 2021. The district anticipates this amount being split over at least 2 fiscal years. This is new, so I can't really tell you when we anticipate to receive the money. On a slightly separate note, I didn't put this in my report, but I just was reading an article yesterday that said officials are looking at potentially in 2022, so next year, the second installment being pushed back, the deadline being pushed back until December.
So I can certainly provide some additional information there. There is a new system adopted by the assessor's office, and the rollout is still going through a certain amount of
bumps?
learning pains. So there was some concern raised that it would be a November or December, if not January.
Correct.
So that is true.
Yes, so I think it's really important. We're gonna have to closely monitor our fund balances to make sure we have the cash to cover that. You know, the last time this happened, I believe, was 2010, where it got pushed back that late. And so this is something we definitely will have to be watching, and that's why I'm not super optimistic about the additional $309,000 that I just referenced, and when we will actually get that money. But I wanted to call that to your attention.
Kristen, we receive our installments in August and March, correct?
Correct. In a normal year, yes, we receive them in March and August.
So
We
you're
have not had
saying
a normal
next year,
year.
instead of getting it in August, we could be as late as December,
As
January?
late as
Correct.
January of '23.
Correct.
So we would have to do the first 6 months of operation.
From the fund balance.
Yes,
And
and
the bond-
if
And
that,
the bond payment's December 1st.
yes. So the bond payments are a concern, as well as looking at, you know, our educational fund balance and possibly needing to transfer money into that account to cover some expenses if we really get to that point.
Yeah, I think we'll have a better sense of what that timing looks like if it's as drastic as January. I think that's a different level of panic than November, obviously.
Yes.
Very much so.
Bond payments, no, right.
Moving on, Quest Food Service, due to supply chain issues for several food items, Quest Foods will be increasing the price of 14 items in the student cafeteria beginning second semester. 10 items for purchase are going to increase a quarter, 2 items will increase 50 cents, and lemonade will increase 75 cents to match the price of Gatorade. Liability insurance, at the end of the month, the district will have completed their first year with Alliant for liability insurance. The administration has received an initial quote for next year's liability insurance. This goes on a calendar year of $130,736, which is a 9% increase. I'm working with Alliant. We may get one additional quote in, but we're not hopeful, so likely the cost will be around $130,000, which will be brought to the board in January under board bills for approval. The next item is Facility Advisory Council. As Dr. Skinkis referenced, we met on December 8th to discuss the Attached Life Safety Update and the quarterly business review from Aramark. It's a lengthy document, so I don't want to go through all of it, but I do want to highlight 1 or 2 things, and there was a question submitted as well. The question was submitted in regards to life safety. So Marianne, if you could go to Board Book page 49. The question was, how and when does the list of life safety items get refreshed, and how do new projects get identified? Life safety is a 10-year process in which an architect completes an audit every 10 years to identify the items that don't meet the life safety code. The last life safety report was in 2013 for RB. Other projects that are not considered life safety projects would be considered capital projects, and we would pay for those out of either our capital account or operations and maintenance. But if you can see on Board Book page 49, there were 84 life safety items that needed to be addressed, primarily through our last amendment, Amendment 22. Aramark has performed the work on 75 of the 82. We've done 82 of the 84 items. And as a result of Aramark doing that work, we've saved $829,475, which was used to offset other items that came in more expensive than the initial estimate. Sometimes what happens is you get this life safety report done in 2013, but then you actually don't do the work until 2020, and so things can change. Or there are other issues that get uncovered as you're beginning to do the project. So two big examples include the pool dehumidifier that was significantly more. It was $310,000 more than the estimate, and the HVAC unit in the gymnastics room, which was $52,000 more than the estimate. So those are just two examples. We do anticipate having a balance of around $300,000 when we close out the life safety amendment, which we can then ask the board to transfer to another account. Could be O&M, or it could be capital projects, which we could then use towards the other projects that we want to do around RB.
Could it be used to fund the next life safety audit, and what does that usually run?
It could be in life safety. We could leave it for life safety as well. This past life safety included a lot of big ticket items. It included a lot of roofs in the past 10 years. So the next section of our roofs become out of warranty after 2029. And so the next life safety will include that. So we're hoping we can maybe not have to address those in the next life safety, and we can go a couple years beyond their warranty. So we don't anticipate at this point any big ticket items, but we won't know until we actually complete that audit.
Were you asking how much we pay the architect to do the?
Yeah, I guess that was, yes, I was.
So like in 2023, it'll be 10 years, and I guess her question, if I can interpolate, this 300,000, can we leave it there to pay the architect on the next round?
Oh, certainly.
Exactly,
so, yeah.
exactly.
I thought you meant the other life safety items that
No,
were
no,
gonna
no, I
get
mean,
dinged in 10
my
years.
thought was we would roll it, it's a dedicated fund already, it's there, it's serving a purpose. I'm just putting it out there.
That's an option, yeah.
Yes, that is an option. I'm not planning on bringing anything to the board at this point, anytime in the near future. It'll be probably a year until I bring something to the board to either do something with the money or leave it in life safety.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Perfect.
And then I did want to touch quickly on the quarterly business review. It's a lengthy document, but I wanted to highlight Aramark's ability to handle the pandemic without really missing a beat and publicly thank them. Some of the highlights are on Board Book page 57. They had access to a lot of supplies when many people did not, because they're big organizations. We were able to get N95 masks from them, hospital-grade sanitation to clean the entire building. And then they also switched to a blacklight system to check the cleaning of high-touch areas to make sure that those areas were being cleaned properly on a regular basis. They move furniture on a regular basis for us in terms of social distancing. They installed touchless faucets in the bathroom. We installed MERV 13 filters in the HVAC system. That's the recommendation. And created dividers for office spaces instead of having to purchase them. And they were really able to pivot in any direction as we were getting new guidance on a regular basis. So I wanted to publicly thank Burham and the entire Aramark staff. They really did a wonderful job last year, and they continue to do a great job this year as well. As Dr. Skinka said, I'll be providing some additional updates on the Aramark contract possible extension in the next 2 or 3 meetings as well.
And the uptick in COVID we've had is not from the building per se, but it's been from outside activities?
Yeah, the contact tracing has seen a lot of it be linked back to transmission outside social events.
So therefore, they're doing a good job for us inside here with all the cleaning.
Correct, yes. They also, on a nightly basis, we deep clean all of the bathrooms with that hospital grade sanitation. And then in between every lunch period, we're making sure that we're sanitizing all of the cafeteria tables as well, and other high-touch areas in the cafeteria.
Well, I think it's also, in general, it's good to note transmission is primarily airborne. They were very focused on providing appropriate HVAC upgrades and other things.
Yes,
When that
installing the-
information became available. Surface area is certainly important. We all want to stay healthy in general, but I think this particular virus is certainly airborne.
Yes, and so we also have, the one thing I didn't mention, in addition to installing the recommended filters, which are the MERV 13 filters, we run the air conditioning or the HVAC unit well before the students and staff enter the building, so that the air can change out before any staff enter the building. And we continue to run it well past when we normally would run it in the evening as well, to exchange that air out once everyone leaves the building as well. Lastly, I'm following up from the November board meeting in regards to a question Mr. Welch asked about the expected amount of money and salary costs for next year. So as I presented in the levy hearing, the new money for tax year 2021 is approximately $282,232. If the district used the current salary rates for the next school year, the anticipated salary cost the increase would be an additional $412,000 approximately. This doesn't include the cost associated with an increase in FTE that we may have next year due to increased enrollment.
So the difference would be the 282 from the 412, correct? Or is it 412 over the 282?
We're getting
No, they're two
282
separate
new
numbers.
money,
Correct.
and we're spending 412
Correct.
more.
Right.
It's a difference of $130,000. Should I do the math right?
Yes. That concludes my report.
That answered the questions that were submitted to, correct, Kristen?
In regards to my report, yes.
Okay. Hector, I know you're up for principal's report, but I think we should let Mr. Kirk
No,
go.
of
Is
course.
that okay?
Yeah, good evening, honorable board members. I'd like to introduce Mr. Brendan Curtin, Assistant Principal for Athletics, for his annual report.
Fall report.
Fall report.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Tonight, I'm going to touch on some of our pay to participate items, as well as touch on some of the highlights from this past fall season. In regards to pay to participation and some of our roster numbers, happy to report that we experienced an increase in 4 of the 9 offered fall sport programs participation levels compared to the fall of 2019. We had nearly 400 students participate in fall athletic programs. However, we did see an approximate 3% decrease in overall fall participation compared to the 2019 fall season. This slight decline in participation was expected due to the pandemic. We believe we're in a good spot, all things considered, and we're hopeful and optimistic that things will trend in the path of getting more participants out for sports as we move through the school year. Some of the fall season highlights. The fall season was filled with several highlights. The girls tennis program posted winning records at all levels. Girls volleyball won a Metro Suburban Conference championship in the red division. Our boys golf team advanced 4 golfers to the sectional levels. I think that's an all-time high for us. Football earned a playoff berth in the Class 6A playoffs. Boys soccer continued to grow with an increase in participation. And of course, earlier tonight, we recognized 11 student athletes who represented RB at the IHSA state finals, with 2 girls cross-country representatives, girls swim, and girls golf with 1 representative each, and boys cross-country sending 7 student athletes to state, where our team finished 5th overall in the Class 3A competition. All in all, it was a great fall season. In closing, I'd like to give big thanks to all of our student athletes, coaches, athletic trainer, game day event contest workers, the athletic department staff, specifically my assistant Donna Sifferman, and assistant athletic director Sandy Chaika, for everyone's hard work this past fall and providing so many Bulldog families a fulfilling experience. As Deanna had touched on early on in the meeting, it's been a grind to where we're at right now, and there are a lot of contributors to help us get to where we're at. So that concludes my report. Any questions?
The pay to participate numbers are we a little down? Do we, is that because of waivers or just what do you call it, payment plans?
Or numbers of participants.
Or numbers or
You're looking at the dollars?
Yeah,
Okay. Again, that was taken from December 1.
okay.
I don't think we're that far off. It was a couple weeks ago. Couldn't really touch on as to what exactly that's the reasoning for. I would imagine it's result given to where we're at in terms of economy, job security.
Yeah.
I'm sure many families are on a pay-to-participate plan.
Okay.
You figure 2,000 of it is due to participation numbers, and the rest might be waivers, right?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to see, because it looks a little more than just 13.
Yeah.
Brendan, anything you attest to the 397, as the board's always, wants more engagement, more student engagement? Do we think, is there anything from your coaches or feedback you're hearing on students not coming out, or was it just because everybody coming back from the pandemic?
These devices, right? Kids have been sitting on their couch for the last 18 months. A lot of them have. And I think they're in a routine right now where they're not used to being in a structured program in terms of athletics, structure and coaching and things of that nature. I think you're always going to have those athletes that are driven and dedicated and want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. But as far as, for lack of better words, some of your fringe athletes or some of those that take a little while to develop throughout the lower levels, I think some of them are trying to search and try and find their role within the athletic sector. And I don't think it's just a thing that RB is experiencing. From the people that I have spoken with, whether they be ADs or coaches, are experiencing some of the same challenges. So obviously we're taking some steps to try and address that in terms of putting together a leadership council among our student athletes, having coaches involved in that to collaborate and discuss what some of the best practices are being used by some of those sports that are getting numbers increased in terms of participation.
In any of these fall sports, do we turn kids away because we don't have slots
Are they
for them?
cut sports?
Yeah. I know golf is.
To my
the one-
experience, yeah, golf is a cut sport. Volleyball has been a cut sport in the past. Again, there's 6 athletes on the field. Golf is, has 6 participants once you get to that state level. Other than that, none of those sports had to make any cuts, and it's to my understanding that even those cut sports did not have to make cuts this year.
So anyone who wanted to play this fall got to play.
I'm sorry, can you?
Anyone who wanted to play this fall got to play.
Exactly, yes.
Is there any intention to get formal survey information about participation? I'm more curious as to see whether there's an anticipation that the current situation is causing people feedback from parents and or I guess you could get less formal feedback
Sure.
from the athletes that are playing to find out what they're hearing from friends and stuff like that. But I'm curious to see where this is going to go as
Right.
I'm in the same field trying to figure these things out too.
Sure.
So-
We do conduct surveys at the conclusion of every season that are afforded to parents and student athletes, obviously active student athletes, to get a better picture in terms of what their experience was like and how the programs can grow. Again, we're 1 month after our fall season, so we're kind of at the infantile stages in terms of how we approach this challenge. So we've had a lot of discussions with coaches in terms of what we can do moving forward. But again, I think we'd be kidding ourselves to think that we did not think that we'd be in this position, but obviously we are taking steps to make sure that we're capturing those student athletes that are on the fence, whether they're in or out. So as we move forward, I think we'll have some more answers.
I mentioned it in a prior board meeting, but I think the biggest driver is going to be their peers themselves communicating. So, hoping that we get more, not formal, not asking for anything in terms of direct something directly related back to the board, but I hope that the peers are giving good pressure to get back involved into what we've been.
Well, I think, and we did talk about this at an earlier meeting too.
I
With
know, I mentioned it
Yeah, and
there.
the SA having like a club fair in January,
Oh,
February,
yes. Mhm.
because I think there were a lot of sophomores and freshmen coming in, not sure what to expect from the school year, and now they're finally getting into the rhythm. And, Claire and Elena, you guys may have some thoughts on this, like how to, we're back to our new normal, and so how do you now engage people with where we are?
Yeah, one thing we talked, a lot of the clubs I've been involved in, one thing we've talked about is with the essentially freshman and sophomore class not really having any real high school experiences. In middle school, really, you start at the beginning of the year, you pay for a club, and you're in it the whole year. And you can't just join, you can't just show up because there's such strict rules about it, like you're in a club. And I think people are not used to that at RB, that you can join randomly on a Tuesday, that you've never been to a club before and you can come and be a huge part of it. So I think things like that, like just encouraging that it's never too late and you can always join. Sports are obviously different, but.
No, but I think it has a rollover effect for sure, I think.
And if I could add, we will be having early second semester. We're going to have kind of an in-house during the school day, during lunch, activities fair, as well as a fair for our incoming Bulldogs. So that's in the works.
Well, I was rightly directed at another meeting by some young women saying they don't recruit or look at their numbers based on boys or girls, men or women who are joining the clubs, but are the clubs, do they have fees involved with the clubs? Not athletics, but some of the other clubs, are they fee-based? So,
Yeah,
okay.
a lot of the clubs, I don't know the terminology they use, but like the performance clubs, so theater, speech, some of those IHSA ones, Model UN, those are all pay to participate, which I do believe is a deterrent for a lot of people because
So we do get
everybody's family is in such a different situation right now that it's like
Should get
some
that
people just
report
cannot.
at the end of the year. Sometimes we try to do, end of the year is the primary one for clubs and activities, Mr. Manager.
It's also not that big of a difference. It's not that many
No.
students.
No, it's 13, right?
No, it's 13, and then I
And I
also
would
looked
also
at the
say,
waivers
let's look
double
at
too.
spring, and then if spring is down, then, I mean, students were just coming back.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly.
As a parent, I don't know, I would have been like, go to school, but then we're done. Like, and then $200. I mean,
Right.
it's all those things to consider. But overall, some sports did better this year than they did in 2019.
Sure.
So let's not.
Get to
Reel
work.
it back, you guys.
Right, yeah.
It's not that bad.
The end of the world.
All right, next. Sorry.
Any more
Thank you.
questions for Mr. Curtin?
No, I
No,
just
not
wanted
at all.
to say,
Thank you so
Brendan.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Wait, Ms.
Oh,
Towner is speaking.
I just wanted to say thank you. I know you didn't come to your decision lightly of leaving your coaching position. It's only because it's one of these fall sports. And so thank you for building a great football program, and hopefully you'll find a replacement that will keep it going.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for that.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. Thank you for all you do, Brendan.
Okay, Hector, you want to go through your principal's report?
All right, good evening, honorable board members. Here's my principal's report. Final exams began today with a 7th period final. I want to say good luck to all the students. You can do this, you got it, you've studied, you're prepared, and I know the teacher prepared you as well. We have finals these next 3 days, half days. Take advantage and show us what you can do. So good luck to all the students. I believe they're ready. Our average daily attendance today is approximately 94%. Winter break begins December 18th and runs through January 3rd, the first day of the spring semester. 2 weeks ago, I had my second race and equity committee meeting, and the key topic was a preliminary curriculum audit. I'm really proud. I looked at English 9, 10, 11, and some AP courses, and I'm just so proud of what our kids are reading. Our students are reading, books from Black and brown authors, from Native Americans, from Asian Americans. We really brought the equity from the board statement and infused it in the curriculum, and I'm just so proud of what we're doing. We still have a long way to go. There are many curriculums we need to look at, but that is the ultimate goal. that everything the students see, that they see the diversity, you know, and the equity approach represented in everything they learn, right? Incoming Bulldog Night, the purpose is to introduce incoming students at RB to staff, academic programs, and extracurricular activities, and their recommended courses. That'll happen Thursday, January 6, 2022, from 6:30 to 8 p.m. I will be sending some updated information soon regarding that, but just so everyone, please look out, and Board of Education as well. Incoming freshman registration, the purpose is to register for classes for the following year, for the upcoming school year, is Saturday, January 22nd here from 8 to 3 p.m. Mental Health Days. So a few months ago, our governor, Governor Pritzker, signed into law an edict that allows students to take up to 5 mental health days without having to provide the school a doctor's note. But there are some conditions. Students, parents, guardians, students' parents still have to call the school and notify us that it's a mental health day, right? So if you're going to be absent, they still have to call the school. The student will be permitted to make up any work. And once the student is called out for a second mental health day, our student services team, our counselors, social workers, will engage that family to check on them, to make sure that they're doing well and to connect them with the right resources. A few other caveats to this. If a student is not in school because of mental health day, you cannot participate in an after-school club or sport. And then, this is very important. Mental health day should not be taken during standardized testing days, those key days. Again, we'll work with families because mental health and your overall health is our #1 priority. But that is coming starting January 1st, 2022. Students are allowed to take up to 5 mental health days.
Dr. Freitas, when you put these links in your report, the board can't access them, so you have to.
I can.
Can you click on it? Because I can't, it's not working on mine.
Oh, yeah.
Did you download a PDF? No,
Yeah,
mine's
maybe
fine.
that's
I'm-
why.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were able to access it. I just
No, I
want to
was
make
able
sure
to
they
answer.
were.
No, my question was specific to the, if I may,
Yeah, of
Dr. Freitas?
course.
Yeah. The restriction on using the days for semester exams or state testing days. I wanted to confirm that had been vetted by outside counsel, or is that part of the legislation that I didn't see when I read through it?
Well, that's kind of our kind of local expectation, and then as far as what I just mentioned about the activities is actually found on page 10 of our student handbook.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, and don't get me wrong, I know state testing brings anxiety, but
I
our
was
goal
going to say that would probably be the main day for students to want to call off.
Well, I just don't want us to find ourselves in a trick
I
box
hear
on
you,
this,
yeah.
right? Where a student calls in and we're like, well, if this something I don't know to think about. Does this need to be explicitly stated in the curriculum guide? Does this need to be stated in some kind of a communication to parents and families? I just think it's an area that's a little bit. I don't want us to run afoul of any compliance on this.
I always communicate my principle to parents, so parents would check. They'll get this exact copy. So I will be communicating, that to parents.
I think the concern is just that if you put like, hey, the law was passed after the handbooks were printed and the school year started.
Correct.
And they take effect, I believe, second semester?
Correct, second semester.
And so I think the concern President Zalis is bringing up is we probably should send this to legal counsel just to confirm. Because if a kid truly needs a mental health day, it doesn't matter if it's a standardized test day, state championship day. If they're truly taking a mental health day, we can't tell them they can't use it.
Of course.
So I think you should send an email to legal counsel. You could CC me on it.
Okay.
And then clarify the question from the board president.
And then, in long term, we have to find out what the policy should be from the board level.
Yeah, and are not
Right, it needs to
state
be-
exams also kind of required, right? Are there makeup days
There's
for?
makeup days for
We
that,
do
so
have
sure.
We do have
there's always
makeup days for those, okay.
Yeah. And trust me, on a regular year, you understand there's kids that are absent and have taken for of the makeup day. I mean, for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
Family emergency. I mean, this is part of schooling. Yeah, that's why we have that makeup day option.
I did not get a chance to look through the Giant Press Plus packet, but my assumption is
probably
this legislation is in the Press Plus packet, so we're kind of, our timing's a little bit off, right? Just because the nature of the legislation. We get the packet from IASB, but the effective date of the law is 1/1. So the building's putting in the building policy, and just want to make sure that it's going to track with the law and with the press policy, to Mr. Welch's point.
My question, and it's small, are the interventions on day 2, or on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, are those school interventions, or are those outlined by
So
legislation?
we're always going to start with our resources. I
Right.
believe we have, great professionals here, great resources, great connections that can really help the family. So we're always going to start with, our counselors, our social workers, our psychs, and all of our partnerships. And if for some reason, we find out that the student or family needs more support, then we could, reach out for outside support. But we will start our action plan with our resources.
Okay.
But I do think it's important to know that the state legislation does allow for that intervention. It actually explicitly states
Correct.
intervention on the second day, which I think is important to.
Oh, sure. My question,
Right.
and it really goes to the fact that it's the same each time, but I think it speaks to the idea that in reality, you're just connecting the right people in terms of resources at the school with the student potentially in need. I just wasn't sure if that was directed or if that's something that's locally being administered in the school. So.
Any more comments or questions on that piece of Dr. Freitas's presentation?
Guys, I don't know if Claire or
Yes,
Elena has something to share. I know we always meet. I don't know if you guys wanted to share.
Yeah, I just think this is a really great policy. Honestly, a lot of people I know already take mental health days, but have to kind of write it off as something else. Especially, I know a lot of college stuff around either October 15th or November 1st. I know a lot of people were super worked up because, that's the end of a quarter almost. There's just not enough time in the day to do everything. And I think a lot of people sometimes can work themselves into a space where they need a break from their school. And people I know who have taken those really stay on top of it. So I think it's great that they've taken the initiative to address this, that rather than having to lie about going to a college visit or going to a doctor's appointment or whatever, that you can actually say, hey, I'm needing a mental health day. And whatever that looks like for somebody, I think it's a great policy that a lot of people can get behind. And I think that people will use it appropriately.
Yeah, going along with what Claire was saying, especially for seniors around when applications were due and when scholarships are due and all of that, I think those mental health days can really be used to also get caught up on the college stuff, to be able to get in those applications and those important documents needed for schooling. So I know I've taken a couple days to, I haven't taken days off of school, but I've had to go home right after school and take the entire rest of my evening to do all of that. So if the mental health days were in place earlier, then I probably would have taken a mental health day to get caught up on that when those things were due. So
Yeah,
I
I think it's important, ladies, you understand that they're not mental health days. Like, if you take a mental health day, the second time you take one, you have to then have the meeting with the social, it's actually you're experiencing some mental health issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not backed up on college applications or. Right?
Apologize if that wasn't clear. What I'm referring to is I think a lot of people can, because that's such a vulnerable process for yourself. I think people are working, they spend all night working on it, and then the next day they just need to sleep, relax. So yes, I understand what you're saying, but I think it's also college applications, it would be nice to have that time, but a lot of people are going to use it to mentally recover from that process of putting every aspect of your human existence on the line and asking for validation.
Yeah, I'm curious as to how these are, when we get our end of year report on attendance,
Right.
would these be broken out? Is it a separate category then? Or is it
It'll be marked. It'll be marked
Okay.
and coded, and we'll make sure that the Board of Education has access to that, so we can look at the data.
I wonder if the state would care, I don't know.
Right.
I mean, again, the timing is kind of interesting, right? You've got the governor signing it at pretty late or after the academic year started with a 1/1 effective date. It makes it hard to implement. But I'm glad you guys can take advantage of it if you need it.
And look, just my last item here, winter sports have begun. Fans are welcome to all indoor events. Please, masks must be worn and for visitors as well. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year's to everybody.
Hey, Hector, you had the e-learning plan in there. Do you want to touch on that?
Yes, so also in my report, I have the e-learning plan. So, in case of inclement weather, we want to continue learning, right? So of course, our superintendent, would make the call, to go to e-learning. So basically, what e-learning is, right? We're learning online. We're not disengaging, right? Traditionally, with a snow day, right, you would be at home, there would be no learning happening. So now we're going to be learning, online. Students will go through their classes. We're always going to aim for a late start, right, to give people an opportunity to compose themselves in the morning to take care of their family and obligation. So we're always going to try to start in person, late start at 8:55. But if our superintendent, decide the conditions are not safe, then we will go to e-learning. Students will go from 8:55 to approximately about 1:30. They will go through every class, getting engaged for, about 30 to 40 minutes per class. Students and teachers will engage synchronously first, and there could be some asynchronous work. So again, the point of an e-learning day, right, in case, there's bad storm or inclement weather, we're going to continue learning and stay engaged so we don't lose that disconnect from learning.
I want to ask Dr. Freitas to put this in his principal's report because the board officially, you can officially start using e-learning days if the board had an adopted plan. The law was passed July 1st of 2019. So we passed our e-learning plan, and before we got to use any e-learning days, we then went into a pandemic. And so we have to renew our e-learning plan every 3 years. And so if you notice on the bottom, it just says updated November of 2021. And so the only thing that was, from a board's perspective on the e-learning plan is we have to make, the board's plan is to make sure there was 5 clock hours, students had access to technology or resources. So actually when we first passed this, we were going to send out emails, and kids that didn't have technology were going to have paper packets. But then after going a year and a half where we did remote learning, we worked through this with the instructional coaches and through with the union, and updated the schedule so that there was some actual synchronous instruction like was taking place on the remote learning days. So we wanted to we just put this was always on the webpage when we updated it so that parents would see if we do go with an e-learning day, there would be some expectation of actually doing synchronous. When we were past the original plan in 2019, pre-pandemic and pre-remote learning, kids had like up until 11 o'clock to log in, and then you had up until like 11:59 p.m. to turn in your assignments. And so teachers really were on the hook to be available if there were questions via email, and if there was any, there wasn't the whole Zoom and Google Meets and all these things. So after meeting with our instructional coaches and with our union, we thought we'd be doing our kids a disservice if after a year and a half of remote learning, we didn't do some synchronous instruction. So as you can see, we still meet the 5 clock hours. This plan's been updated because now we have access to hotspots. And so we put in their links, and we sent out communication to families that if you thought you needed a hotspot, they could order those now, so that when we do get into the months of more inclement weather, they have the access to the internet at home so they can participate in these synchronous lessons. And so that's why this was included, to provide the board an update on this. The board will need to take action in September, before September of 22 to renew it, because it does expire every 3 years.
That's what I wanted to make sure I heard you correctly. It's a 3-year.
Yeah.
And to add, we are a one-to-one school. Every student has access to a computer, and we do have the hotspots, for families that are in need of it. So we've closed that, technology gap, and I'm really proud of it.
And we quickly realized during the pandemic, I think Deanna and Ramona were on the board, Laura, as well, right? When the pandemic first started, we were trying to use like these e-learning days, right? And where teachers were just sending home assignments via email or sending assignments to kids. And so that's why we know that we could do a lot better now after last year and all the things teachers have learned, students have learned, and kids have learned. So that's why we wanted to update this to make it a little more effective.
I know some schools have done effectively some sort of a practice day, and this is prior to the pandemic when this was first becoming a thing, with the plan from the state authorization standpoint. Is there any thought in implementing some form of in-school practice to that type of day so that students are aware of what that might look like should we run into the inclement weather during the school year? I'm more curious. We all know what Zoom looked like last year, so I mean, in terms of setting up Zoom accounts and things.
We've talked to teachers about having this prepared and going through it with their classes, but we have not discussed actually having like a e-learning day in class.
Well, and I believe we had one, we had, I think, one or two my freshman year. Like with the.
So there was some kind of practice.
Yeah,
I
that
think
was
but
obviously.
I'm saying we don't do that annually where we say,
Yeah.
like, here's how you log into Zoom. It would be something that Dr. Freitas would need to work with his team on. And so I would say that we defer that back to you as the principal, Dr. Freitas. Think about that with your administrative team, if that makes sense. First day of second semester of just reminding students, having teachers or maybe that first week where they could log into Zoom or access to the links.
And that the plan is forward-facing on the website in case anyone needs.
We sent,
right?
I think Dr. Freitas sent a notice out to all families already
Right.
with where the plan was located.
And then we'll get my principal's report again.
So I guess my question in the packet is related to board policy. Maybe it's just a nomenclature issue that I wanted to bring to the group's attention, right? So it was approved by the Board of Ed in September 2019, then it indicates revised November 2021. That was not a Board of Ed revision, that was a building revision and totally appropriate and needed. And then you'll be coming back to the board, assumedly, for another revision in September of 2022. I just think there, as we look at these policies, some kind of a shared nomenclature on what's a building operating procedure versus a board policy, and something to keep in mind, I think, in terms of tracking this, because I looked at this going, well, wait a minute, we did not talk about this in November of 2021, and it just made me pause. So just
Yeah,
to
we probably should have
explicit.
brought this in the principal report in November and then posted it to families in December, but we wanted to get the plan out in the event there was any inclement weather in
Yeah,
December.
no, it makes sense. I guess I was just more coming out of our discussion on Saturday about policies and goals. I'm just focused a little more on that kind of language.
Yeah, my understanding is the policies that we have it, how they implement it was their operations.
Agree, but it's on the same document, so it's hard to distinguish one from the other. Yeah, I mean, we certainly didn't approve all the details of it, right? It has to meet the principles of the statute.
We approved having it, yeah.
Correct,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So-
The why, the how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Right. Agree.
Okay, are there any questions for Dr. Freitas?
Anyone on this?
Have a great holiday season.
You too, Mr. Vice.
I won't see you for the rest of the year. Or maybe tomorrow.
Student advisors report.
Tomorrow.
I'd say the only thing I have right now is I would urge all students, especially as we see this uptick in cases, to take their break if they're eligible to get a booster vaccine. I know a lot of people have been holding off because of finals, just because they don't want to be sick during their finals. I would urge everybody to get a vaccine, protect yourself and those around you, and good luck on finals. That's all I have.
Elena?
Yeah, good luck to everybody taking finals because we haven't taken finals in such a long time. I know it can be nerve-wracking for everybody, but yeah, good luck to everybody. And I think the teachers have done a really good job in preparing us also. So yeah, that's all I have.
Good luck to you both.
Thank you, Claire, for participating on Saturday and donating some of your valuable time to the process.
Okay, comments, questions, we're good? Consent agenda. Approval of minutes?
Yes. Where is it? Oh, sorry, I got it. The Board of Education Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois takes the following action on the listed consent agenda items. Approves minutes from the meeting held on November 9th and December 11th, 2021, open and closed, as presented in the December 14th, 2021 board agenda packet.
Second.
This is an all in favor.
Oh, yeah, all in favor? Thank you.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Objections? Hearing none. Moving on to old business. You did them all together, correct? You did all the minutes together? Mm-hmm. Okay, I apologize. We don't have any life safety items, capital improvements, and sustainability,
Kristen covered that in the financial reports, we should be good.
but nothing for action today. And then we can move on to the adoption of the 2021 tax levy after our hearing this evening.
Love these long ones. Whereas the Board of Education of Riverside Brookfield Township High School, District Number 208, Cook County, Illinois, has determined the amount of money that is necessary to be raised by taxation for the year 2021, and whereas the Board of Education has heretofore adopted a budget resolution for the district for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2021 and ending June 30, 2022, and whereas the Board of Education discloses at a public meeting its intention to adopt a levy, and whereas the Board of Education provided notice of its intent to adopt a levy, now therefore be it, and it is hereby resolved by the Board of Education of Riverside Brookfield Township High School, District 208, Cook County, Illinois, as follows: that there shall be and there is hereby levied by the board the amounts set forth on Exhibit A attached hereto and made a part of this resolution, which is the certificate of tax levy for the year 2021. That the board president and board secretary are hereby authorized to execute the certificate of tax levy and supporting forms and certifications, and the district administration is hereby authorized and directed to file the certificate of tax levy and all supporting forms and certifications with the county clerk of Cook County, Illinois.
Second.
Do we need a second? Mr. Welch on the second?
Yes, and we're pretty sure all our dates are correct here. Because we're collecting money in the future for years in the past. That's why it's July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022. In the resolution, we're pretty good on that, Doctor?
Yes. Kristen, good? That's what we got from our legal counsel as well, correct?
Okay,
Yeah, I believe so. I believe Marianne sent it to legal counsel for review.
all right.
Okay.
Okay. With that pause, Ms. Nardi, would you please take the roll?
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Mr. Van Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes. Thank you all. Moving on to new business, payment of bills.
There's one question submitted. I believe it appears on Board Book page 196 regarding the entry board medical and board HMO. That refers to the employer contributions for health insurance.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions from anyone on the board? Ms. Towner, would you be so kind?
The Board of Education, Township High School, District 208, Cook County, Illinois, approves the payment of bills as presented in the December 14th, 2021 Board Agenda Packet.
Can we get a second, please? Mr. Welch, a second. Roll call, Ms. Nardi?
Mr. Van Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Ms. Gasko?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Ms. Zalis?
Yes. Moving on to the disposal of surplus personal property.
Attached is a list of surplus computer equipment, books and magazines, and athletic equipment. The equipment is old and no longer is being used, and the books and magazines are either out of date, no longer used, or are not in great condition. We bring the disposal list to the board 2 times a year, in July and December. Whenever possible, the district tries to sell, recycle, or donate the equipment. Typically, we are not successful in selling or donating the equipment, but we are successful in recycling the equipment. There's a question submitted specifically about surplus books. Where the books go depend on the condition and the reason why the book is being withdrawn from circulation. If the book is in good condition and doesn't contain out-of-date information, typically the books are offered to staff and students if they are interested in taking them. We also, in the past, have offered them to scarce, although scarces can be particular in what books they will take in as a resource. Ultimately, if no one wants the books and we can't find a good home for them, or if they're damaged and contain outdated information, we give them to a recycling company that collects them and recycles them into making new paper. And that was all of the questions submitted in regards to the disposal of surplus property.
Are there any other questions on the surplus list? Anyone? Are we okay moving on with this and taking a vote on this evening?
Yes, I am. Are you ready?
Yeah, ready.
Whereas the superintendent has recommended and the Board of Education has determined that certain surplus property listed on the attached Exhibit 1 surplus personal property belonging to the district is no longer needed for school purposes and should be sold, and whereas the Board of Education has determined that the sale of the surplus personal property in accordance with Section 10-22.8105 ILCS 5/10-22 .8 at public or private sale is in the best interest of the district. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of Riverside Brookfield School District 208, Cook County, Illinois as follows. Section 1, that the superintendent is hereby authorized to dispose of the surplus personal property by public or private sale in a manner which is in the best interest of the district. Section 2, in the event that any such property remains unsold, the superintendent may dispose of it in a manner which is in the best interest of the school district. Section 3, the superintendent shall report to the board the items sold, the buyer, and the amount received for each item.
I'll second, and just, you missed one word. In the second sentence, she was the
Surplus
personal.
personal property.
Yes. With that, yes, I second that.
Okay, we have a second. Can we get a roll call, Ms. Nardi, please?
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Ms. Gasko?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Ms. Venhorst?
Yes.
Ms. Salas?
Yes. Moving on, we have a first read for a few items, the minibus, lease agreement.
Our current 3-year lease agreement for the district's 2 multifunction school and activity buses that we also refer to as mini buses expires on June 30th, 2022. Due to the chip shortage that is impacting the auto market, there continues to be a shortage of mini buses. So as a result, I'm recommending that we extend our current lease, which was 3 years, for 2 more years. This would be at the existing price of $9,270 a year per bus. The overall bus warranty will expire in June, but the 2 buses will still be covered under an engine and transmission warranty. I plan to have the buses inspected at the end of the school year prior to the warranty expiring, so towards the end of May, so that if there are any issues, we can address them while it's under warranty. I'm also recommending that we lease a 3rd bus to assist with transportation for athletic and extracurricular activities. It will really allow for more flexibility and hopefully for more students to arrive to their events on time, as we won't have to rely on our bus company due to the bus driver shortage. The administration recommends a 2-year lease on this new bus, which initially was suggested that it would cost $19,289 a year. Since I submitted this to the board for the board packet, I was able to get the price down to $18,333 a year. The cost is high due to the very high demand of minibuses. Additionally, there are not a lot of companies in the state of Illinois that sell minibuses. I know of 3, and I've reached out to my business manager network, and I think the number is 3. One company did not provide a quote, and they said that they were going to. And the other company we have used in the past, and we are not very happy with the service that they provided. Their price was very similar. It also makes sense to stick with the same company of the existing 2 buses that we have. There was also a question submitted in regards to the reason for the shortage. So the chip shortage and the chassis shortage, they're all related. So due to the chip shortage, the cost of cars has increased, and so manufacturers can make more money off of selling cars than they can in selling minibuses. So as a result, they're not producing minibuses because there's not as big of a profit for them. And so that's why there's a shortage on minibuses. And then lastly, I'm working with Midwest Transit to secure the draft of the updated lease, but they cannot provide it more than 6 months in advance, which is why I couldn't include it in the board packet. But I have confirmed that the payments for the new bus would begin upon delivery, and there's no deposit required. So in the event something happens and due to the shortage they can't provide that 3rd bus, we would not be on the hook for paying for that.
So when you say 6 months, does that mean you're looking to take to like for the next fiscal year?
I just, normally I would include the contract in the board packet and the lease, but they can't, our lease is up on June 30th, and so they
okay.
can't
Gotcha,
provide it to me
gotcha.
just yet.
Gotcha.
And this is a
But
first
I
read, so I
can't-
think.
Yes.
And it's still first read.
Yes.
But I can't get on the waiting list for the new bus until I have board action and I submit a PO. And so it is first come, first serve basis. So in January, I will be looking for the board's approval, even if we have to say, you know, pending legal review and superintendent's review on the lease agreement. But this is a first read for tonight.
And we want to get on that list because of first come, first serve, but also we're extending the two because we use them constantly.
Correct.
And so if we let the other lease expire, at first when we were planning through this in one of our cabinet level meetings, we were like, well, doesn't it make sense to have all our buses on the same cycle? And the fact that you could have two leaving and not get two back on top of waiting for a third, so that's why we're like, keep the two we have so we know we got two, order the third one, put the two old ones on a 2-year lease, do the new one on a 2-year lease, so that in 2 years, all three will be, hopefully we're out of this shortage and then we can renew all three.
Yes, and just to give the board a sense, you know, they usually get, Midwest Transit usually gets a request for roughly around 250, 260 buses, new buses each year. And last year they were only able to fulfill 80 of those. Now we're in a better spot than we were last year, but that's why it's important. That's why I'm bringing it to the board so early.
Thank you, Kristen.
You're welcome.
Next item for first read is that Press Plus policy issue that we've talked about a couple times here
Yeah, it's
tonight.
about 200 pages in there for you to
I don't think
glance over the
anyone's
winter break.
really read that yet, but I'll
Laura
look forward to it.
I'll be reading.
Okay, I'm
You know
sorry,
what
I
I'll
didn't
be
speak for
doing
anyone.
during winter break?
Me, Laura, and Ramona will be meeting
Okay.
the first week we get back.
Word for word.
Okay, so we look forward to that.
School
Yes, I do.
calendar, the last thing tonight on the agenda is the school calendar. The two additional days are Election Day and Juneteenth. Technically, with the exception of the district closed on April 7th, all of these are state-required dates. But so those could be, Mary Ann, if we could modify that to, in the second read, to say newly state-required. But we shared this with the feeder schools. We shared a copy of this with the teachers union. Historically, the main thing I want to draw your attention to is in the bottom, the middle section, bottom bold. Historically, our pupil attendance days are usually 176. That provides us a cushion should any freak emergency happen. 175 is the minimum. So we historically, like this year, we have 176. However, this will be the second year where on the years where we had to close for election day and now the midterm election, on those years we go with 175. So we have to still call them proposed emergency days, even though we use e-learning days. You have to have, the state system makes you call them proposed emergency days. And then you're allowed to have up to 4 institute days and 1 parent-teacher conference. So everybody has seen this. I would say we let that sit out there through the board packet until after winter break, and we should be able to take action on this in January. I do like to get this posted before February so families can plan accordingly in a year in advance for spring break, winter breaks, things like that.
And we're lining up with the feeder schools, right?
Correct. All the feeder schools have seen this and they are comfortable with the winter break and the spring break. Those are the two primary. We start a week earlier than our feeder schools.
And
We also try to align with Lyons Township since half of Brookfield goes to Lyons Township, the other half of Brookfield goes to RB, so we try to always work with them as well.
And the RBA has given their input.
They were sent a copy. I didn't receive any additional feedback, but they were sent a copy a few weeks ago.
One thing about the attendance, the parent-teacher conferences like October 20th and 21st, that extra institute day, I know like for seniors, keep that going. That is so great because that's so close to November 1st. And I know that is a day that like you're able to catch up on everything. Those 2 days together, I think a lot of people would be totally have drowned if they didn't have those 2 days. So that's a great policy. I think the school should continue.
Okay.
Thank you, Claire. Any other feedback from the board?
No. Looking. Hearing none, we can move on. I don't see any additional participants for visitor statements. Discussion items, I presented those in terms of rolling into the policy discussion. Any consideration of items at future meetings? Do we have anything there? Anyone? To my right, to my left? And we do have matters for closed sessions. We'll be returning to closed session. If we could make that motion, it would be appreciated.
Sure. Second closed session. The Board of Education, Township High School, District 208, Cook County, Illinois, enters closed session for the purpose of considering appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body, student discipline, purchase, sale, lease, or lease of real property, probable imminent or pending litigation, collective negotiation, school safety, and confidentiality of closed session minutes.
Second.
Thank you.
We have a second from Mr. Welch.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes.
Ms. Jessica?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Mr. Benhorst?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Ms. Sims?
Yes.
You would think I would have
Thank you all. It is 8:25. We want to meet in
I don't think so.
Should be
5 minutes?